The Property Pod. Welcome to the Property Pod with Moneyweb. The property sector is an ever-changing sector, and in this podcast series, your host Suren Naidu chats to movers and shakers in the property industry.
Hi there, this is the Property Pod, South Africa's premier property investor podcast, right here on Moneyweb, which also features as a video on our YouTube channel, Moneyweb TV. We are taking a look at the latest developments at Zimbali on the KZN North Coast now, which is booming with several property projects on the go in Ballito or around Ballito, as well as further up the coast. Now, one of the big projects that really put the region on the map is Zimbali. And the next phase of development at Zimbali is Zimbali Lakes, which is currently underway. And it's a mega development being driven by IFA Hotels and Resorts, which is based out of Kuwait. They've been involved in South Africa for 20 years now. So it's a milestone episode. I think it's around 2006 that they invested in South Africa. Zimbali Lakes is a mega development and effectively is the next phase of Zimbali. And besides South African golf icon Ernie Els being involved with the development, there are several other projects on the go. But the big news announced a few weeks ago was Tonino Lamborghini coming into the resort as part of another development that's coming in. And to give us the latest on this, as well as an update on some of the other projects on the go, is Werner Berger. Werner is the CEO of IFA Hotels and Resorts South Africa. Werner, very warm welcome to the Property Pod.
Yeah, good morning, Suren, and welcome to all the listeners as well.
It's interesting. You are speaking to us out of Stellenbosch, but I'm sure you do a lot of semigration and work, not just on the North Coast, because Zimbali is your big project there, but also traveling to the Middle East and Kuwait quite often, considering IFA's investments in that region. Werner, Tonino Lamborghini is the big news out of Zimbali, but you've got a number of big names, including the Big Easy. With the latest with Tonino, it's been on the cards for a while, and when I chatted to you last face-to-face at the resort, in fact, back in 2024, when you launched the Ernie Els project there, or you had Ernie on site, you hinted about a branded residence coming into me. Obviously, you didn't mention the name at the time, but were you talking to Tonino Lamborghini as far back, and how did this deal come about? It's quite a big news for IFA Hotels and Resorts.
Yeah, it's been, as you mentioned, the project is almost 30 years in the making, since 1996 when Tonga Gillett originally started it. But since our involvement in 2006, we've brought various of different, let's call that business models and angles into the development. I mean, if you can recall those years, we've brought the Fairmont Hotel Group into South Africa, and that is to open up the five-star hotel at that point in time. And we've done that similarly in all of the projects that we've done across the world. We've always liked the branded properties, and when you've got a hotel or a residence that's branded, it just sets a certain standard and quality that you want to put in your project. What we've seen in the South African market, we're not 100% at the level of the international market, specifically the Dubai market, which responds much better to the higher star, 5-star resorts. But we have lately seen, South Africa is bringing in branded properties, and on the hotel sector has been for several years. And on the real estate side and residential side, we've seen some of glimpses of that recently coming in. KwaZulu-Natal, however, is always been the foster child in South Africa. I've always said that we need to do a lot to make sure that KwaZulu-Natal gets the same exposure and everything that the Western Cape gets. I'm sitting, like you said, I'm sitting in Stellenbosch at the moment here with warm clothes on here, and it looks a little bit rainy over the golf course here. I'm sitting here in Delza at the moment, and I hear my daughters is kind of like walking around in KZN with short sleeves. So to be sitting in South Africa in June, July of the year, and sitting in and a climate that you can actually have summer weather is not leveraged well enough. And we've seen, I mean, specifically in the Western Cape, they've got Westgrow and all of these tourism organizations that's promoting the Western Cape. And we really need to do something to bring in KwaZulu-Natal on the same level. I mean, it's the only destination in South Africa that's a year-round destination. From a hospitality and a tourism perspective, it is absolutely critical. You know, people is going over to Mauritius and to other places into Europe, but Cape Town people is not traveling yet to KwaZulu-Natal. We've now recently had Club Med moving into KwaZulu-Natal, just in the north of us. I mean, we discussed that when we saw each other last time, and I think that was the first major move on the North Coast recently of bringing in an international operator. I've listened recently to the managing director of Club Med. He had a presentation the other day there in Zimbali, and he was telling us that they've seen a remarkable increase in the visitors from the Western Cape side coming in there, which was something that they did not bargain for. So yes, so to bring in concepts into different parts of the world as we operate is not foreign to us. We've always been kind of like conservative in terms of what we bring into South Africa. And we've learned, obviously, through the Fairmont introduction at that point in time on how the market received that and also in terms of what the market is prepared to pay for these international brands. So it was very important for us to wait and find the right time to introduce this to the market. We needed, a lot of things to stabilize in South Africa, the tourism market to be coming up. And I think what's happening at the world at the moment, where everything is so uncertain and in such a mess, suddenly South Africa is seeming to be reasonably stable, if I can call it like that. We've got good tourism. We've got a very strong demand, specifically seeing in the Western Cape, and we're seeing it now in KwaZulu-Natal, where there's foreign investors coming in, there's foreign tourists coming in. So there is a bit of a window that we're working with at the moment that we felt appropriate to introduce another international brand into KwaZulu-Natal. And yes, you're correct. We've been working for the past 2 years with them. We had them out in secret about 3 months ago. I think if it's not probably 2 or 3 months ago, Tonino himself onto the site. And until we've got him, I wanted to get the right time for the market for us, but also in terms of his schedule and our timing and our rollout phases of the Zimbali project. It was critical that we get all the stars aligned. And that happened about 2 months ago when he was on site. We then finalized and signed the agreement while he was there. And that's the release that you've seen, a week or two ago. So yes, it's been a long time coming. And I think it's if we see the response that it's done with all of the investors and the market, it seems to be well received in South Africa.
So Tonino Lamborghini, are they being brought in like Ernie Els as a brand? Is it more like an operator or the branding side of things, or are they also playing a role in the investment side? Because IFA is basically leading the investment drive into the broader Zimbali Lakes as a master developer, but also investor.
So yeah, you're correct. So it's similar to Ernie Els. It's the brand that we brought in. It's basically and why we specifically looked at Tonino Lamborghini, it's a design-centric brand. So when you look at you've got various of different options. If you go in talking about branded residences and branded suites and so forth, you can go the route of the hotel operators that's got all their brands that they work with, and it's more relating to normally on the operational side, and it's and they will more be structured in terms of giving you operating support, and then also giving you sales and marketing support from the end user side. When you start looking at the branded residential in terms of Tonino Lamborghini, it's a design-centric brand. So the meaning being is that they are not involved with the operations or the investors or the sales and marketing of that. That's all driven by the developer and the owner itself. They are bringing in their brand and their design-centric. So you'll see first of all and that's why you've seen when we've done the press release, we've only announced the drop-off image of the hotel. You've not seen how the building looks like and so forth, because we are still busy finalizing that design. So you will see that when we release the images of the building, that you will see a distinct flavor of the Tonino Lamborghini brand and design features coming through the facade of the building. So that's the first thing. And we felt that, we've got such a strong brand in Zimbali already. How do you further elevate that in a market like this? And by looking at a precinct, so when you look at the whole Totali precinct, which is consisting of the Advanti and any else residences. You're talking about the retail, you're talking about the hotel and so forth. It's a 5 billion rand development. And how do you differentiate between these various of different projects that's within this precinct? And one of the concepts is to take and really build a iconic building inside this precinct that stands out from the rest of the buildings. And for that, you need a brand that kind of like elevates that kind of concept. So you'll see on the elevations when we release that that the design of the facade and the building is very unique, and it will stand out, and it'll be completely different from the rest of all of the surrounding buildings. And then you will see when you go internally in terms of the foyer and the apartments and the real estate itself, it will have a very distinct Lamborghini design brand standard. And that's what we believed is the product that's needed. We obviously, being involved with Zimbali for so many years, we're the master developer. We are the contractor. We use obviously third-party contractors, but we are building, developing, and rolling out and managing our property. So for us, we don't at this point in time seen the necessity of bringing in another operator or so. We will obviously have operators that's involved running the hotel, but it's not necessary that they would come with their branded residences. And that's what we've brought the thinking around the Tonini Lamborghini suites and residences is to bring something different to the market, a different look, a different feel. And we do believe that our sophisticated clientele is asking for that kind of product at the moment.
Thanks for that. And in terms of scale, you say there's more visuals to be released, but the size, we have covered it, but maybe you want to highlight the size and how tall will the building be, but also when construction is expected to commence and the completion and opening date.
So in terms of the size and the scale, there's two components of it. The one is the suites, which is effectively a hotel. The site is zoned for a 200 key hotel site. At the moment, we're sitting around about 177 keys. We're still finalizing the development, and we'll see how we can maximize and end up filling up and to what level we'll end up. It'll be somewhere between 170 to 200 hotel keys, which we call Tonini Lamborghini suites. They will be fully furnished, and they will be released to the market potentially on a condo basis. So you'll be able to invest into the Tonini Lamborghini suites, and they will be released on a product basis whereby it goes back into the hotel operations, and you'll be able as an owner to have some share usage of that. So it's a 6-story building, and it will consist of around about 170 to 200 keys. There will be a restaurant in there. There will be a gym and a wellness center with a spa in, as well as a conference center and a business center. So it'll be a fully integrated hotel offering, and that'll provide services to the Lamborghini residences. The residences itself, it's around 76 apartments, nice duplex units, reasonable sized, I think in the order of about 80 to 100 square meter per residence, 2-bedroom duplexes and so forth. And then we do have some penthouses that will be on the top with lovely its own pools and so forth that will be in the 200 square meter range. And we expect the product to be in the order of about 100,000 rand a square meter. So you could find probably from the smallest investment, you'll probably find starting from about 3 million, going up to 40, 50 million for the penthouses and the more bigger apartments at the top.
Thanks for that insight there. Now, this is Tonini Lamborghini's first project in Africa, as far as I know, but have IFA Hotels and Resorts worked with them before in some of its other projects in the Middle East and other parts of the world?
No, this is our first project, so you're correct. It is the first project that they've done in Africa, and that's also why it's taken so long to conclude the transaction with them. Been busy for 2 years with them. It's quite, an important part for them to enter into Africa, and it was very important for them to select the right project to go into being their first project. So they've had a lot of interest coming from the Western Cape also. It's a very high-end product, so there's probably only, I would think, 4 or 5 locations in South Africa that will be able to carry this level of standard, and it's obviously, you'll find that in the Western Cape and the Atlantic seaboard side, and probably in KwaZulu-Natal. I mean, I think Zimbali would probably be the only place that will be able to carry that kind of level. Maybe there in the Garden Route at Plettenberg Bay or one of those places, there would be the opportunity to reach that. And then obviously in Sandton and so on. So we do see South Africa, probably 4 to maybe 6 or 7 projects of this nature, but it will need to be at the highest level. And that is what the brand demands. And, the standard and the fit out and everything that goes with that needs to have property that can carry it, I would think, in South Africa between 80 to 150, 200,000 on a square meter. So it's right at the top end for KwaZulu-Natal. It's right up there. And we're very excited to bring that first year. It was quite a challenge to close them out first, and it was dependent on Tonino himself visiting the site and getting the comfort with us. And it is our first project with him, so I'm the first guy that met him from the IFA group and concluded with him. So there was a bit of time that we needed to spend to get to know each other. And I can happily say, he's quite a eccentric and a very dynamic gentleman. And we enjoyed our time together. He loved the South African food. He spent a couple of days with us. We put him up in the villa at Zimbali Lakes, and they really enjoyed it. He was there with his whole team. We showed him around, obviously, and he also spent a bit of time around Zimbali on the area around there, and they've done a bit of shopping and very excited about to be involved with it. So I think it's quite an interesting angle for us, and we're very proud that KwaZulu-Natal and us could secure that as the first one. But it will be rolled out in the rest of South Africa and even Africa to that extent. And I think it's great to put an example of that as the first one at Zimbali.
Now, you talked about you bringing in it. I wanted to speak about the broader Zimbali project, but we'll get to that in a moment. Now, Werner Berger has been with Zimbali and IFA for a number of years, and I thought it might be important to ask you, your experience and your time with IFA Hotels and Resorts, because I don't know how long you've been involved with Zimbali per se, but I was told that you were involved with the group in the Middle East as well, and you may have been involved when James Wilson first came and brought IFA into South Africa all those years ago, 20 years ago. At the time, I remember I was working at the Mercury. It was touted as the biggest foreign investment in tourism in South Africa. I think it was around $600 million. Obviously, the rand has weakened since then. But can you share some insights on how long you've been in the group and what other projects you've been involved with before we go back to the Zimbali broader project?
So, I'm a real estate guy my whole life. I think one of the few guys that studied building management and still practicing my trade today. So, very happy in the industry. I always joke and say it doesn't feel like work. We're living a dream at the moment. But yeah, I've been originally started with Stocks and Stocks many, many years ago and done a management buyout of the Western Cape component of Stocks Residential at the time. That was the late 90s. And I still own that business today, partly with my partner from Pretoria, Opel Greef. And we've been doing developments in around Stellenbosch and the Western Cape since the late 90s. And it's still going today. We've done some retirement villages and so forth under Zimbali property development. So that's still going on. But in the early 2000s, I went to Dubai to basically, it opened up to be selling real estate to foreign investors in Dubai. And I was approached by a gentleman called Hussein Sajani. He's the chairman of DAMAC today. Those days, it was in 2001. And he asked me to assist him. At that stage, he bought a piece of land in the marina. 2001, it was only Nakhil and Emar at the time that was launching real estate developments. And then I've put the first development together for him, Marina Terrace there in Dubai Marina. And I launched that out of a tent there on the site in 2002, I think, if I can recall correctly. And done it, for over I think I was only there supposed to be for one project, but ended up there being a couple of months with him, launched 2 or 3 projects. And that's when IFA approached me and said, listen, James Wilson at the time with Jassim Al-Bahar, the late Jassim Al-Bahar, and they said, listen, they've bought now from Kuwait, they've bought now real estate on the palm. It's actually just water. The palm doesn't exist even. And can I now do for them what I've done for DAMAC? I was on my way back to South Africa at the time and my family wasn't very keen. But kind of long story short, I then joined them in 2002. And yeah, so where does it take me? It's probably 24 years. And I rolled out for them all the projects on the Palm. We've developed and sold, I mean, you might have recalled the Fairmont on the Palm, the Fairmont Residences, Kingdom of Sheba, Golden Mile, all of those projects. It's around $3 billion worth of projects that I developed. I ended up staying 10 years there. And during that course, while I was running that business, and James was at the moment, he recruited me. He was employee number one there at Hotels and Resorts at that time. And after 9 months, he left to join Nakhil. And then, I became the CEO of IFA Hotels and Resorts. And at that point in time, it was basically the whole international business. And we invested from there, from Thailand into the US. And I started with that business, at 2002, basically with a concept that was originated from Pine Cliffs Resort that Jassim Al-Bahar said, here's the concept, here's $100 million. Can you go and put up for us a business that specializes in 5-star mixed-use integrated resorts across the globe and focus on emerging markets? So we've started, obviously in the Middle East was our strongest, and the market was very good to us there. We then went into Thailand, and we at some point in time couldn't acquire fast enough land. We ended up buying listed companies, and we bought Raymond Land, which was listed in Thailand and so forth. And part of that time, James left a long time ago. By then, we started to reinvest back into South Africa. So, the chairman always said to me, "But I'm preparing for my retirement one day because I want to go back there." And I says, "Well, it ended up that way." But cut a long story short, we ended up investing back into South Africa, and we acquired at that stage 50% of Tongaat Unit of the Zimbali project. We've acquired 36% of Boschendal at the time. JCI was there. And then we also acquired 50% of Legend Golf and Safari Resort. We exited Zimbali, the Boschendal, a couple of years later with a lot of pain. It wasn't a pleasant experience for us there. And we're still today in Legend Golf and Safari Resort in a restructured environment with our partner Piet Celia there. That's still ongoing. And then in 2016, we've increased our stake in Zimbali by buying out Tongaat Unit, and we're now 100% on Zimbali its own. I have stepped down from all of the boards and all the responsibilities on the international business in Dubai and so forth. And I do still, get on a call and with the guys once a week and just touch base. But at the moment, I'm back in South Africa for almost the last 12, 13 years. My children wanted to go to Afrikaans high school here in Stellenbosch. So the two daughters was very keen to go back into South African lifestyle. And they both now actually living in KwaZulu-Natal, and they both involved in Zimbali. The one is on the architectural side, and the other one is the marketing side. So we've done a full 360 loop back out abroad and back into South Africa, and enjoying all the international experience that we've had over the years. We've been able to apply that back into, and I think you can see the benefit of that coming to play now in Zimbali.
I know it's a longer interview, but Bernard, thanks for that insight. It's quite an incredible story. A lot of South African construction companies and professionals moved to Dubai during that boom period, and you are one of them. Coming back to Zimbali Lakes Resort, which you are driving now, the Zimbali Coastal Resort, you talked about Fairmont Capital Hotel and Resorts bought that out after the COVID fallout. So IFA is no longer involved in the coastal resort. And Zimbali Lakes is a massive piece of land across the highway. Can you give us a kind of an update on the overall resort, the scale, and how much is set to be invested in the broader property over the next 10 to 15 years? You talked about 5 billion rand for the current projects, but I know, for example, you sold quite a big piece of land to Amdek for the retirement estate that's planned in the future there. And I'm not sure what else is coming up.
If you start back at Coastal, you're 100% correct. So we are still the master developer of the whole of Zimbali. When we bought our Tongaat Unit, we acquired the Zimbali brand, and we have now entered into a license agreement with the old the Coastal Resort. They've rebranded themselves into Zimbali Estate now, and they've got a license to utilize the name. And we're still the master developer. We still sign all the releases and all the transfers conferences and so forth going through at the Zimbali estate, and we've got a very good working relationship there with that estate at the moment. However, I mean, we don't own any further property there, and we have sold out, as you rightly said, in terms of the hotel and all the other assets. We purely focused on the Lakes Now development, of which we are the master developer. We've recently acquired another approximately 60 hectares just on the other side of the N2, which we're expanding now into the Zimbali country estate. We'll probably be bringing that to the market, to the public market, I would assume sometime in the middle of next year to the end of next year. And we're looking at bringing in quite exciting things there. So if I can maybe start there, you'll be seeing that we will be introducing a education component. We're very excited. We are looking at bringing in a private university into the country estate. We do believe that we're sitting between all of the schools and the demand for how the North Coast has grown. We've seen that all of the kids that's finishing schools there is coming down to Stellenbosch, and there's not a lot of options available for them on the tertiary side. So with us having obviously the sport, the golf, having now agriculture in terms of the country estate there, and the technical sides, we believe that there's definitely space to have a tertiary institution there, and we're trying to get that focused around the more technical side, the sports side, and then also agriculture. We do believe that there's a massive market for that, and we're currently negotiating with some of these institutions, and hopefully that will be coming on stream.
Is it perhaps a GRC-listed education group?
So I can't disclose it at the moment. It's very exciting for us. We, as the Lamborghini thing, you'll see, you'll need to wait and see for the time to come. But we're very excited we're in quite in-depth negotiations at the moment, and we're very excited that that's moving in the right direction. So I'm hoping to bring that to announcement probably in the next couple of months, and that'll be massive for Zimbali and as well for Ballito, where we could have a private institution of that kind of quality level, providing. We've got 4 of the schools around us that is absolutely full to the rafters in terms of students, and I think the newest one, Seaton, has just opened up recently, and it's just the quality of the schooling coming out there and is just screaming for a good tertiary kind of offering. So we're excited about that coming out. I can't disclose who we're talking to at the moment, but that'll be announced shortly. On the other front, as you know, you've mentioned the Evergreen development with MDEC. Yeah, we've concluded with them. It's a 750 unit retirement village. I know that they are quite busy at the moment with all of the stuff at the waterfront they're doing, as well as I think at Valdevi they've got Evergreen there that's doing very well for them, and they are busy with the planning stages and so forth. And that's what makes Zimbali quite dynamic in terms of the lakes compared to the coastal. The lakes has been set up, when we bought into the coastal estate, it was already set up by Tonga Hewlett. The constitution was reformat, and you'll see, to go into the hotel and all the commercial components into the old estate, you need to go through the security gates, and it's just not a real viable scenario. And from a security point of view and from a commercial point of view, it was one of the things that really hampered the success of that development. So when we started with the lakes, we were fortunate enough that we could have structured the lakes in the same format as what we do on all of our projects internationally. So it's been separated, where you'll find that the retail, the Tatali precinct, sits outside of the residential security barrier. So it means that you can drive straight up to the hotel or straight up into the retail center without going through residential security gates. And that's a massive change for the strategy and the thinking of how the security estates work. But at the same token, you want to have your Woolworths and your Checkers in these retail outlets where they've got direct access to the residents of the state. So you'll find that, for instance, in our retail center, I think there's over 15 restaurants there with commercial, that you will be able, from the residential Zimbali Lakes, houses and townhouses and villas and apartments, to go with your golf cart and go and do shopping. So I don't think there's any estate in South Africa where you can literally go with your golf cart inside the estate roads and go and do shopping at Woolworths or at Checkers and whatever, and go to the restaurant and go back. And that's the ability, what we've done there. So we've given the commercial freedom out to trade straight into the public domain, but we at the same token have linked it directly into the estate where the residents got in. So just in terms of pipeline, Mentioned the retirement village. We've got Ernie L. Suites, which is sold out, 50 apartments that's under construction. Avanti is a supercar-centric building that we've announced a while ago. Sales are going there also very well. We've started there also with the constructions on the retaining wall and so on. So those two projects is on the go. The retail center, we've already started with some of the earthworks and the bulk infrastructure with the retaining walls and things also commencing shortly. So that's also on the go. And then, yes, you've mentioned Lamborghini that's coming. We've also got a project which is Villa Sita, which will be announced shortly. I think that's probably the next one that's coming on stream even before Lamborghini, which is 146 drive-up apartments. That'll be released, I think, somewhere in August, where you will be able to buy a 2-bedroom apartment with a double garage on the 6th level of an apartment building with massive sea views and having the convenience of driving up to your apartment with your car and having a villa in the sky. And that's why it's called Villa Sita. So we're bringing that project, I think, first to the market now. So there's quite a lot of exciting stuff. We've got
How much is that? Sorry to interject there. What sort of investment is that?
So it's 2-bedroom apartments starting probably from about 6.5-7 million, going up to, there's a penthouse at 50 million at the top there. Very kind of like interesting. It's you're effectively buying a 2-bedroom apartment. I think the smallest unit is like 130 square meters, including a double garage and so on. So you'll find that we've got a product coming to the market which is completely different. Some of them is going to be branded. Every project that we bring to the market has got a unique kind of style. Either it's architecture, or it's car centric, or it's something to do with a apartment onto your villa in the sky. So every one of our projects will have something different that brings a different kind of clientele and a offering to the market, and it will be differentiated from each other. So we're very excited. But I mean, with the country estate coming into play, I think we've got a pipeline for the next 10 to 15 years in terms of rolling out real estate in Zimbali. So we're really excited about it. The market is well at the moment, it's doing well at the moment, and we're very excited to be part of the project and part of this growth story of the North Coast. It's phenomenal what's happening there at the moment. People don't realize it. I think it's it's probably the biggest development corridor in South Africa, and people don't even realize it from South Africa. Go to the North Coast and you'll see, what's going on there. It's just phenomenal. The authorities, everybody in terms of infrastructure is well looked after. Everything is new, and I think we need tourism, and we need a lot of airlift coming internationally into Durban, and I think. It's a year-round destination. I think you can, if you look 5 to 10 years forward into KwaZulu-Natal, the North Coast will be a complete different destination in South Africa.
Just in terms of total investment so far in Zimbali Lakes infrastructure and projects, and then over the next 10, 15 years, what is it, like a 10, 20 billion rand development over its development phase once it's complete?
Yeah, so already we've got to date around about 1.5 billion of infrastructure and the golf course and the clubhouse that we've invested already, and that's operation already. We have committed a further 1 billion. We've announced that end of last year in terms of a combination of infrastructure and then the top structures of Avanti and anything else in the retail center. And then, as I mentioned, the balance of the tally will be completed. It's 650 apartments, approximately 150,000 square meters of building, 100,000 square meters of built-up area, bulk, if you call it like that, and that's a 5 billion project. So when you add all of these things together with the country estate, you're looking at quite a significant investment. We've not even discussed the marina. It's also been announced last year. So when you combine all of these things together, it's probably a 50 billion rand development that'll be rolled out over the next 10 to 15 years time. So yeah, it's a big project in anybody's scale. It's so far we've committed and financed it with our own equity on the infrastructure and and we're taking up the debt. EPS is our partner on the debt side at the moment. They've been supporting us very well on that. And as soon as we're going into top structure and income generating assets, we then look at taking up the debt for that component. And yeah, we're very excited with the combination of our own equity and the infrastructure our financing partners. We are very excited, and obviously the market. I mean, we need to continue. Last year we've done 400 million in sales. We're already sitting in the first 5 years just over 300 million. So our target for this year is to do $1 billion in sales. So as long as the market holds up and we've been able to deliver the sales volumes and the stars aligned, we hope to roll out the many projects to come for Zimbali in the next couple of years.
It is a bit of a long podcast. I know we're over time, but 2 more questions. You mentioned the marina. That was my next question. It was dubbed as a vision for Zimbali and Zimbali Lakes. But is it realistic? Is it pie in the sky? Could it happen? It's along the river there. There's a lot of EIAs and that sort of thing required. How realistic is the marina plans of the future for Zimbali? Do you have government? I'm sure you have local government support, but that sort of project will require national government approvals from an EIA and other aspects.
Yeah, I think it's important when you're kind of like dealing with your current clientele in the market. It's important for them, if you've got anything that's planned, to actually disclose that. So if somebody is buying currently in the Tali precinct or in Lamborghini or in Velocita, you need to announce to them and advise them that if you've got plans of any future developments, that could have an impact on their views and where they look into. So, and that was the intention for us, is to say that, listen, this is our vision. There's an opportunity where we can take Zimbali even into a different level. When you look at the marina project, it's got 2 distinct components to it. There's a component to it that sits on our land, that's inside on the river, as you mentioned, and that's what you call a inland marina, and it's already where the lake is around, and that'll be on real estate that we own already. And that's dependent, obviously, as you mentioned, on EIAs and so forth, or whatever the case might be. And we're busy in the moment. There's quite an environmental problem in terms of the river quality and so forth. So we're busy with those studies at the moment. And once we've determined, the key for that project is that we will be trying to do something that I'm not sure if it's been done in South Africa, whereby we will be putting up an environmental trust, and all of the projects all the developments that we will be doing in that marina, there's a percentage of the proceeds of every sale for in future that will be going into an environmental trust that will be reinvested into the environment. So this is something that we want to do with environmental authorities. And it's quite to fix these problems of the environments that we've got and the river quality and so forth, it needs money. It's not coming from government, and it's not coming from anybody to this kind of scale. And we're talking about massive cost that's needed to clean up that river and all of the infrastructure and the estuaries around there. And so for that, you need development, you need real estate, and we do believe that we've got something unique to bring to the table where we can have a sustainable development, and that will be able to create a mechanism in, and not only having a once-off capital introduction, but on a continuously basis, having a fund that will be able to improve the environment around us. So we're fairly confident that there is a form of that, because it's land that we own already and we need to develop. It's obviously a sensitive area. We need to work with environmental people around there, but there's a strong business case and a social case mixed with the environment. I think we can find a working model for that. So I would think the scale and the size of it will be determined on where we end up with environmental people, but that's quite realistic, and that we are very confident that we'll have an outcome of some forms of that. But when you're talking about the second component, which is the marina in the sea, it's mainly driven off the vision that the government's got in terms of introducing marinas up into the East Coast side there. There's been a lot of coverage of that, and that's, we're following the lead of the government there. It's very early stages. It's very important for us to focus first on the inland and the river marina to establish the quality and see if that is possible. And once that is possible, that will obviously be expanded onto. So, but once you go into the seeds, there's obviously various of components with different governments. It'll need to be a joint venture, right? So with local government, we don't own the land; it'll be reclaimed land. Very harsh sea conditions. So we've done our initial investigations. It's possible, it'll be expensive marina. I mean, the breakwater is around 1.4 billion. And that's why you'll see that we have put in a lot of high-rise towers around the marina that's in the sea, because you will need to have the real estate that support that kind of investment. So that'll be a project that is obviously in the making, and it'll be done on the lead, actually the vision of the government that is focusing around the sea marinas. And we want to see if that project is viable. We've kind of like established the cost of it, and we will now start working on bringing the parties together. We've not got any agreement yet with any of the government people and so forth. We're in the early stages of that, and the cost of that whole marina concept and the viability of it will be supported with the real estate that needs to go around that to make that financially viable. And yes, that is a project that is sitting in the vision, not only our own vision, but a combined vision of government and ourselves. And that's still got a lot of work to do.
I suppose local government, but the reference you talk about coastal development falls within government's national policy around the ocean economy, beyond just shipping, but developing various ports and along South Africa's coastline, not just in KwaZulu-Natal. Verna, it'll be remiss of me not to ask, IFA Hotels and Resorts is based out of Kuwait. There has been this Middle East conflict. Has that had any impact? Obviously, you operate as a separate business almost in South Africa, but is IFA Hotels and Resorts still committed to South Africa and its investments both in Zimbali and in Limpopo?
So first of all, in terms of the Middle East conflict at the moment, so the Dubai market seems to have been coming back quite strongly, and things has normalized in Dubai. And I understand that the business is picking up and doing well, and doesn't have a major impact at the moment. We all hold our fingers crossed for the agreements to be reached. But it seems like Dubai has settled down. Our head office is in Kuwait, and our chairman specifically, the Kuwait airport is closed, and it still remains. I see that they hit Kuwait the other day again. So that is, it's a distressful situation. Our chairman has not been able to travel out of Kuwait, since the conflict started. So it's not easy. He was supposed to be with us in April when we opened up the clubhouse, and it was just not possible for him to travel. So it's obviously from a emotional and a personal side, it's quite stressful. And at the moment we don't make any big decisions in terms of where we go until this thing is settled. What South Africa involves is that it is a small component in the overall IFA Hotels portfolio, so it does not rank up at the top level. I'm focused quite a lot here to unlock the Zimbali opportunity for us. And at the moment, we've got no intention in increasing our footprint. We've only got Zimbali, and we've got still a portion of commitment at Legends Golf and Safari Resort. But our focus remains Zimbali, and that's where at the moment it will remain. We're not interested at the moment of expanding that beyond there. I've got enough to keep me busy at the moment at Zimbali as my day job, and then I've still got my personal developments in Stellenbosch and elsewhere. So I think from a commitment of time from our side, I think we are happy with what we've got in South Africa. Internationally, they also kind of like I think in Dubai they've settled in with investments and development that they've got and operating them. And I think we're in a consolidation phase, if you can call it like that, from an international business. And the current situation, we need to understand where that ends up and how it affects us. We're fortunate in South Africa that we're a separate business, stand completely separate, and we are self-funded here in South Africa in terms of our developments. IFA's injected originally, I think it's about $100 million into South Africa in 2006, and they haven't taken out $1 yet in this 20 odd years, and we've reinvested all the proceeds into the projects and the developments and so forth, and that's where our focus lies at the moment. We've got no intention to go outside of the Zimbali investment profile, if that's the question.
Thanks for that. Independent business, for those who have a long memory, IFA was once listed on the JSE as well, when it was involved with the
that's where my grey hair come from. It's part of those listing requirements that we had at the time,
Werner, it's a long interview. I was going to ask about legends, but I'll leave that for another time. Werner Berger, thanks so much for your time. Werner is the CEO of IFA Hotels and Resorts, South Africa.
Thanks for listening to the Moneyweb Property Pod with Suren Naidu. To listen to more episodes, go to moneyweb.co.za or the Moneyweb app and follow Moneyweb News for daily updates. Follow Suren on Twitter @Suren Naidu for more of his property industry content and other business stories.